We begin with singing Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Giridhari Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. Everybody, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bhagavatam session of our morning Bhagavatam session. We'll begin with reading Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. Nandarani, We knew it would be very big wedding. In Ashbury, whenever Swamiji would perform a wedding, hundreds of people would come, and the temple would be filled. My parents were coming, and Dayananda's parents were also coming. Swamiji said that it was proper that I cook. He said I should come to his apartment in the morning of the wedding and he would help me cook something for the wedding feast. So that morning, I put on my best jeans and my best sweatshirt and my boots, and I went off to Swamiji's apartment. When I got upstairs, I walked in with my boots on. Swamiji was sitting there in his rocking chair. He smiled at me and said, "Oh, you have come to cook?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." He sat there and looked at me. One of the long silent stares. He said, "First take off the boots." After I took off my boots and my old leather jacket, Swamiji got up and went into the kitchen. He got a very large pot that had been burned, so thick to the bottom that particularly there was no metal visible. He handed it to me and said, "We want to boil milk in this pot. It has to be washed." There wasn't a sink in Swamiji's kitchen, only a teeny round basin. So I went into the bathroom, put the pot in the bathtub, and rinsed it out. I assumed Swamiji did not want the black off the bottom because it was burnt on. So I brought it back to him and said, "Oh, that is very clean, but just take off this little black on the bottom here." I said, "Okay," and I got a knife and crawled into the bathtub and started scrubbing the black off. I worked and worked and worked, and I scrubbed and scrubbed. I had cleanser up to my elbows, and I made a mess everywhere. I'd gotten about half the black off. The rest seemed to be more or less an integral part of the bottom. So I took the pot back to Swamiji and said, "This is the best I can do. All of this is burned on." He said, "Yes, yes, you've done a wonderful job. Now just take off this black that's left." So I went back into the bathtub and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. It was almost midday when I came out of the bathtub with all the black scrubbed off the bottom of that pot. He was so happy when I brought the pot in. It was sparkling. A big smile came on his face and he said, "Oh, this is perfect." I was exhausted. Then Swamiji welcomed me into his kitchen and taught me how to make rasagullas. We boiled the milk, curdled it, and then I sat down and began rolling the curd. And I sat down and began rolling the curd into balls on a tray. As I rolled the balls, I would put them into a little row along the tray, and every single ball had to be exactly the same size. Swamiji would take his thumb and first and second fingers and shoot the balls out of the row when they weren't the right size, and I would have to remake them until they were the right size. This went on until I had a full tray of balls all the same size. Then Swamiji showed me how to boil the balls of curd in sugar water. Malati, Janaki, and I were cooking in the kitchen, and Swamiji was singing. At one point, Swamiji stopped singing and asked me, "Do you know what your name means?" I couldn't even remember what my name was. He had told me at initiation, but because none of us used our devotee names, I couldn't remember what mine was. I said, "No, Swamiji, what does my name mean?" He said, "It means you are the mother of Krishna." And he laughed loudly and went back to stirring the rasagullas. I couldn't understand who Krishna was, who in the world his mother would be, and how I was in any way related to her. But I was satisfied that Swamiji felt that I was somebody worth being. I finished cooking that afternoon about 4 o'clock, and then I went home to get dressed for the wedding. Although I had never worn anything but old dresses and jeans, Swamiji had suggested to the other ladies that they find a way to put me into the sari for the wedding. So we bought a piece of silk to use for a sari. I went to Malati's house. She was going to try to help me put it on. I couldn't keep it on, so she had to sew it for me. They then Then they decorated me with flowers and took me to Swamiji and showed him. He was very happy. He said, "This is the way our women should always look. No more jeans and dresses. They should wear saris. They should always wear saris." Actually, I looked afraid. I kept stumbling, and they had to sew the cloth on me. But Swamiji thought it was wonderful. The cloth was all one color. So Swamiji said, next time you should buy cloth that has little border on the bottom, so it's two colors. I like two colors better. We went downstairs to the wedding. Swamiji met my relatives. He spoke to them very politely. My mother cried a lot during the ceremony. I was very satisfied that she had been blessed by meeting Swamiji. Um, can I stop here or?
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a wonderful vision and beautifully written. It was giving so beautiful, as if we were part of the ceremony there. Oops, no. Just give me a second. So once again, welcome everyone for the Srimad Bhagavatam session. Today we are going to be reading from Canto 4, Chapter 29, verse number 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani Vidunoti Sruhitsatam नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोकैर्भक्ति भवति नैष्टिकी. क्वचित् पुमान् क्वचित् च स्त्री क्वचिन्नो भयं मन्दधि देवो मनुष्यस्तिर्यग्वा यथा कर्मा गुणं भव. क्वचित् पुमान् क्वचित् च स्त्री क्वचिन्नो भयं मन्दधि देवो मनुष्यस्तिर्यग्वा यथा कर्मा गुणं भव. क्वचित् पुमान् क्वचित् च स्त्री क्वचिन्नो भयम् अन्धधि देवो मनुष्यस्तिर्यग्वा यथा कर्मा गुणं भव. Are there any volunteers who would like to read the verse, recite the verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am trying.
Yes, Prabhu.
Kvachit puman kvachit ch sri kvachinna bhaya mandhadhi devo manusya tiryagva yatha karma gunam bhavaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Kochit puman kochit ch stri kochino bhayamandhadhi devo manushastir yagva yatha karma gunam bhavaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna, beta. Kvachit puman, kvachit chastri, kvachin no bhayam andadhi, devo manusyas triyagva, यथा कर्म गुणानुभवा. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, beta.
Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'll try.
Hare Krishna.
Kvachit Puma, Kvachit Shastri, Kvachino Bhayamandadi, Devo Manushya Stri Jatva, Yatha Karma Gunan Bhava. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So the synonyms and translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Kvachit sometimes, Puman male, Kvachit sometimes, Cha also, Stri female. Kvachit sometimes, Na not, Ubhayam both, Andha blind, Diha he whose intelligence, Deva demigod, Manushya human being, Tiryak animal, bird, beast, Va or Yatha according to karma of activities, Gunam the qualities, Bhava birth. Covered by the mode of ignorance in material nature, the living entity is sometimes a male, sometimes a female, and sometimes a eunuch. Sometimes a human being, sometimes a demigod, sometimes a bird, sometimes an animal, and so on. In this way, he is wandering within the material world. His acceptance of different types of bodies is brought about by his activities under the influence of the modes of nature. Purport. Actually, the living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. Therefore, he is spiritual in quality. The living entity is never material, and his material conception is simply a mistake due to forgetfulness. He is as brilliant as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Both the sun and the sunshine are very brilliant. The Lord is like the full shining sun, and the living entities are like the small particles of that sun which constitute the all-pervasive sunshine. When these small particles are covered by the cloud of Maya, they lose their shining capacity. When the cloud of Maya is gone, the particles again become brilliant and shining. As soon as the living entity is covered by the ignorance of Maya or darkness, he cannot understand his relationship with the Supreme Lord. However, somehow or other, if he comes before the Lord, he can see himself shining like the Supreme Lord, although he's not as extensive as the Lord. Because the living entity desires to imitate the Supreme Lord, he is covered by Maya. We cannot imitate the Lord, nor can we become the supreme enjoyer. This is not possible. And when we think it is, we become conditioned by Maya. Thus, the engagement of the living entity under the clutches of Maya is brought about by the forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Under the influence of Maya, the living entity becomes exactly like the person haunted by a ghost. Such a person speaks all kinds of nonsense. When the living entity is covered by the influence of Maya, he becomes a so-called scientist, philosopher, politician, or socialist, and at every moment presents different plans for the benefit of human society. All these plans are ultimately failures because they are illusory. In this way, a living entity forgets his position as an eternal servant of the Lord. He instead becomes the servant of Maya. In any case, he remains a servant. It is his misfortune that by forgetting his real contact with the Supreme Lord, he becomes a servant of Maya. As servant of Maya, he sometimes becomes a king, sometimes an ordinary citizen, sometimes a Brahmana, a Shudra, and so on. Sometimes he is a happy man, sometimes a prosperous man, sometimes a small insect. Sometimes he is in heaven and sometimes in hell. Sometimes he is a demigod and sometimes he is a demon. Sometimes he is a servant and sometimes he is a master. In this way, the living entity wanders all over the universe. Only when he comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master can he understand his real constitutional position. He then becomes disgusted with material existence. At that time, in full Krishna consciousness, he regrets his past experiences in material existence. This regret is very beneficial because it purifies the living entity of material, conditional life. He then prays to the Lord to engage in his service. And at that time, Krishna grants liberation from the clutches of Maya. Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Devi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam taranti te. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Only by the grace of Krishna can one get out of the clutches of Maya. It is not possible to get out by mental speculation or other activities. When the living entity understands his real position by the grace of Krishna, he keeps himself always fit in Krishna consciousness and acts accordingly. Thus, he gradually becomes completely free from the clutches of Maya. When he is strong in Krishna consciousness, Maya cannot touch him. In this way, in the association of Krishna conscious devotees, the living entity can get free from the contamination of material existence. In this connection, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Tate Krishna bhaje kare guru rasevana maya jale chute paya Krishne racharana. In the Krishna conscious state, the living entity engages in devotional service under the direction of the spiritual master. In this way, he gets out of the clutches of Maya and takes shelter under the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 22-25. Such a beautiful purport and translation. Before we delve into the details of what Srila Prabhupada has written, we seek the blessings of Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Veer Krishnadas Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So, anyone who's joined later, welcome, and everyone, please, all the present Vaishnavas, please accept my respectful obeisances. Thank you for the opportunity for reading Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 29 from Canto 4, Chapter 29. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for my purification. We'll read the translation again before we delve into the purport, the sections of purport. Translation says, covered by the mode of ignorance in material nature, the living entity is sometimes a male, sometimes a female, sometimes a eunuch, sometimes a human being, sometimes a demigod, sometimes a bird, an animal, and so on. In this way, he is wandering within the material world. His acceptance of different types of bodies is brought about by his activities under the influence of the modes of nature. In this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 29, this chapter talks, this chapter is a talks between Narada and King Prachinabhari. And in this section, Narada, actually from verse 26, Narada is directly describing the material existence. This is a direct description of material existence. So verse number 26 and 27, Narada mentions that we misuse as living entities under the modes, misuse of independence under the modes. The jiva forgets the Lord, as a result comes under the influence of the modes, then identifies with the body. So this is all as a result, identifies with the body, performs actions in sattva, rajas, and tamas, different modes, and gets different types of body as per the modes. So these are the results and the process that comes. And what happens, yesterday we discussed destinations according to the influence of the modes. In the mode of goodness, the actions are pious actions as per Vedic injunctions, and the destination is heaven or heavens where the demigods reside. In the mode of passion, there's laborious activities, planetary systems, and the destination is the planetary systems where human beings live. So Earth is one of that place. Ignorance is the actions are those that lead to misery and lamentation. And the destination in the mode of goodness, mode of ignorance is animal kingdom. So this verse talks about or gives a lot of information about different bodies that we get. So in this verse, the jiva gets different types of bodies under the influence of the modes while wandering in the world, material world, which is called samsara. Male, female, eunuch, human beings, demigods, animals, etc. So there's a point here in this verse that says this gives us an answer. This verse gives us an answer why Puranjana became a woman. Here in this verse, it is answered. Why? Because he was attracted. So when we actually see that the last sentence or the last line of this verse, yatha karma gunam bhavaha. Yatha karma gunam bhavaha. It means that we understand, if we actually see here, according, yatha, according to, karma, gunam, bhavaha. According to the activities and the qualities, we get birth. So we We are born according to the activities and qualities. So this puts us into a question of, have we got a choice in choosing our bodies? The answer can be a yes, and the answer can be a very strong no. So it can be a yes when we are aware and we get that knowledge of what body we can choose to live. And the answer can be a no, because in ignorance and in that state of forgetfulness, we are very busy making our future. And in this busyness of making our future, we lose the chance of choosing what we want to do. And therefore, we are strongly bound by the laws of the nature. Therefore, sometimes you become a male, sometimes a female, sometimes a eunuch, sometimes a human being, sometimes demigod, sometimes bird. Therefore, this is an unknown area where Krishna consciousness gives us the known pathway. So we understand that the bodies that we got, or we are in, this is all based on our karma and gunam, the qualities. Yatha karma gunam bhava. So whatever modes we are in and whatever activities we performed, we don't have a control on it. So we're getting this body according to the karma and guna. We don't have the control to choose the body, and we are forced to take that bodies, again based on our karmas and guna. And the actions that we are performing today will determine the next body. So it's not a by chance situation that, oh, by chance I became a woman, or by chance somebody becomes a male, or by chance we are an animal. It's a process of how we deal throughout, or how we perform our lives according to our karmas and according to our gunas. So Srila Prabhupada has divided this purport. He's answered all the questions in the purport. The purport is divided in 3 parts. Part 1 talks about how Maya is covering us. What is Maya and how it covers us, covers human beings or human consciousness. What happens when it covers? And how the living entity comes out of this is also answered here in this purport. So we see that there's a process. We enter into Maya, we see the effects of Maya, and then we also have a choice to come out of this. There's a process that is involved. So this whole process is beautifully explained in this purport by Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The first lesson in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna is taught, like in the 2nd chapter. Krishna is only listening till Arjuna where Arjuna is in a state of complete depression. And Krishna instructs, first of all, first instruction. He's not talking anything about himself. He's talking about us. Who are we? So the first instruction Krishna gives is very clear. And this first instruction is the first line of this purport. Actually, the living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. Therefore, he's spiritual in quality. So this means I am not this body. Then who am I? I am the soul, the spiritual being. And the spiritual being is never material. The living entity is never material. And the material conception is from, if he is not material, where has that material conception come? It has come because of the mistake. What kind of mistake is that? Due to the forgetfulness. He is as brilliant as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Both the sun and the sunshine are very brilliant. And this is very interesting to read, to know that he's as brilliant. Who is as brilliant? The living entity is as brilliant as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in in quality. So the Lord is like the full shining sun, and the living entities are like the small particles of that sun, which constitute the all-pervasive sunshine. Beautiful example, even in Sri Isopanishad, the same example is given. Now, the first lesson that we get in Srimad Bhagavad Gita is that we're not the body. We are the spirit soul. And with this knowledge, we can understand we're not to be independently of doing or independently working. So that forgetfulness comes with the desire of independent working. Krishna is our master and we are his servant. But the master servant seems to be very, the word servant hurts our ego. And the master servant relationship here is not based on ego. The master servant relationship is based on the source and the connection to the source. So that is our constitutional position. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse number 7, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha, Manashastrani Nindriyani, Prakriti Sthani Karshati. Now, what does he say in this? The living entity in this conditioned world. He does not say living entities are conditional beings. No. In this conditioned world are actually my fragmental parts. Due to his conditioned life, they're struggling. Due to their conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which includes the mind. So once we get that knowledge that we are not the body, which Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas have been giving to us time and again, telling us that we should be acting on the platform of the soul, that we're not enjoyers, we are the servers. Then when we become the servant of Krishna, our role in this world is to serve Krishna and surrender unto him. But where did this mistake happen? This mistake happened here when we forgot. And how did we forget? In that scenario, in the scenario of under the influence of Maya, we have to forget. Krishna has to go from that place. That forgetfulness has to take place. Why? In order for us to enjoy that. If we are remembering, like this is an example of this illusion of a master and a servant, or at workplace we can say. Now, the master and the servant, in the absence of the master, the servant feels, oh, I can touch this, I can act like a master, I can sit on his chair, I can sleep on the sofa, I can sleep on his bed. Or why is he doing all these things? If we actually get into the psychology of this person, the servant, why is he doing all this? Because of his desire. There's a desire that's sitting to become like master and to enjoy that, what master enjoys. So in that, can he do this? Can he act like this in front of his master? No. So for this forgetful state of illusion, the master has to go from there so that he can act that way. So therefore, the job here of Maya is, because of the desire, the desire and the propensity is always sitting there because we're part and parcel of Krishna. If Krishna likes enjoyment, we're surely going to like enjoyment. But that propensity is cheated due to forgetfulness, is cheated due to the desire to enjoy. And when there is this desire to enjoy, we look for a chance where we forget Krishna and we enjoy. So our material enjoyment is defined here in terms of becoming like, politicians, philosophers. So when a living entity is covered by the influence of Maya, he becomes a so-called scientist, philosopher, a socialist, etc., etc. So this position is very illusory. So when we actually see the illusory situation of this condition of ours, we see that when these small particles are covered by the cloud of Maya, they lose their shining capacity. And when the cloud of Maya is gone, the particle again becomes. Now, this process of being in Maya and coming out of Maya requires devotional service. So this is the bridge to be in that is to cross this ditch from the other is devotional service. So when the clouds of Maya is gone, the particles again become brilliant and shining. And as soon as the living entity is covered by the ignorance of Maya or darkness, he cannot understand his relationship with the Supreme God. So in this state, by the laws of nature, Krishna disappears from that. Krishna is not forced to disappear. Nothing forces Krishna, but Krishna chooses here to disappear so that we can enjoy. And as we enjoy, now the answer is, Krishna says here, because there's always this controversial question about, if Krishna has given us the free will, or why are we here if Krishna is the supreme controller? Often these controversial thoughts keep, coming in our mind. Often every time that, why are we stuck in this material situation? So the answer is given by Srila Prabhupada very clearly here, that why that happens. Krishna removes himself from that position for the reason. The reason is because the living entity desires to imitate the Supreme Lord. So this is telling us that we willfully, actually we step into this place where we want to be covered by Maya so that we can enjoy. Like I remember long back ago, there was one of our assistant who was helping me when my daughter was really young. So she was making a glass of milk for her, and there was a lot of butter on that milk. And I trusted her, and I found that, okay, yeah, she's doing great. And she was making milk. She was just preparing the glass of milk. And all of a sudden, I just went in there and I saw her eating the butter from that milk, from the same glass. And I was very surprised to see. And I immediately had a feeling that this could not have happened if I was standing there. This means that the propensity to enjoy is always there with all of us. But the presence and absence of the master, or the person who's actually, or the boss, or in our world, we experience this kind of thing almost every day. In the moment we have the absence of the boss, or we start enjoying our own way. So why does that come? It's because of the desire that we are always holding, the desire to imitate, the desire to enjoy the same way as others are enjoying, or the master is enjoying. The Supreme Lord does not want us not to enjoy, but he wants us to enjoy with him. But with him, what happens? With him, what happens? We are bound. We can't enjoy exactly like Krishna. So that is where the forgetfulness state comes. The desire comes. With the quantity and quality, we see that our desires never stop. If we are finished with one, we go to another. So this is an expansion of because the more we satisfy our senses, the more they'll open their mouth bigger and bigger. They'll want more and more. So therefore, Everything comes in a process here. And then the part here where the first part which we mentioned, that we are covered by Maya. This covering of Maya is because of our desires. We enter into that. And as we enter into this, we are stuck in the different, what happens to the living entities when they're covered by Maya, they become engaged in the in the in the world, in the material world, one after the other, wandering from this body to that body so that they can enjoy different types. So with this question, we often see that our tastes are different in this body, and in some other bodies, the tastes are different. And for us, it may look like, oh, how can this particular animal eat, sleep, mate like that? Oh, yeah, we have those conditionings. But we forget that deep down, the constitutional position of every living entity, where the soul and the Paramatma is sitting, we assume it from our mental speculation, and we consider ourselves as human beings, thinking that we are going to be eternally human beings, forgetting that our guna and karma can put us into that situation, which we are yucking at the moment, but we may be in there if our karmas are not based on the service to Krishna. So this engagement is the forgetfulness, which is where we are always circled in in part 1 and part 2. Like we keep how Maya engages us and what it happens, and then that conditioning keeps going eternally forever. Now, eternally means what? Present. The present is something that we can change. We can't change the past. We don't know anything about future. So eternal is equal to present. Thinking if my present condition, in my present condition, if I can be of service to Krishna, and every time in the next present, in the future present, if we have this understanding that I am the servant of Krishna, this eternal consciousness is called Krishna consciousness, because right now I have control over the right now. I don't have control over future. I lost my control in the past. So then how to go back? The third part comes here, how to go back to Krishna. Now, I can't go back to Krishna just on my own. First, if it is to be on my own, then I have to keep waiting for Krishna's grace. But how will that grace come to me? Where is that grace going to come? If I don't do anything, like in the prison house, the prisoners are there, and not everyone is given a grace out of nowhere. We have to act in such a way that that grace comes to us without expecting that the grace is going to be, we'll be experiencing that grace. So grace is completely Krishna's mercy. We can sit right now and all of a sudden Krishna is happy and he's given us the mercy. But Krishna, that mercy keeps flowing. On one hand, the mercy keeps flowing unlimitedly for everyone. But if we're just sitting, binding our hands, how can we receive mercy? The mercy is always there for everyone. So in order to receive the mercy, we as the living entity need to first of all change the desire. Whether do we really want to leave this material world, or are we happy in this material conditioned state? This is where the free will and the desires and all those things come. We need to just introspect. Am I ready to, or am I even willing to go to the to serve Krishna? Am I even willing to serve Krishna? This question helps us to hold our present very tight, hold our present really strong. Am I willing to serve Krishna? If I'm willing to serve Krishna, then I have to understand my psychophysical nature, in my body, this soul, what does this soul desire? Until unless we get into the concept of soul, the consciousness will not change. So this consciousness is where this consciousness is changed by the association of the spiritual master. So here, Srila Prabhupada says, only when he comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master can he understand his real constitutional position. Until unless he becomes disgusted with the material existence, he will not change the desire. So at that time, in full Krishna consciousness, he regrets his past experiences in material existence. And this regret is very beneficial because it purifies the living entity of material conditional life. He then prays to the Lord to engage in his service. And at that time, Krishna grants liberation from the clutches of Maya. Because Krishna is also seeing, we can't just go to Krishna. First of all, it's not in our hand. Even if we are being invited in Krishna's kingdom with this kind of consciousness, what benefit are we anyways going to be reaping? I was just imagining the other day, even if we go in this state, like everyone is serving Krishna. I was just thinking about it. Everyone is serving Krishna, and if I go, I was thinking, and if nobody asks me, oh, Hare Krishna, Radha Padma, nobody will care. Radha Padma is there. And if nobody asks me, I'll feel like really offended. I'll feel like, oh, nobody sees me. So we can just well imagine ourselves if we are invited to a place and we're not even recognized we are there. How do we feel? So let alone when we go to this Supreme Lord's kingdom and if no one is not even Krishna, it is not possible. This is my mental speculation, but I'm just giving this example to understand what condition are we in and what consciousness are we in right now to be even changing that desire of why is it happening? Because we're still conditioned. We are conditioned to the boosting of the ego. We are conditioned to the boosting of the pride. We are conditioned to the boosting of who am I, with the positions, with the education, with whatever material opulence we may be having in our present life. This switch, that mental shift has to happen for us to see how that mental shift changes our consciousness. So because of the spiritual master, that can happen. We can't show off in front of our spiritual master. We actually become really minute in front of our spiritual master. So serving spiritual master helps us keep our position really down, where there's no place for ego. We can't even dare to show our ego in front of our spiritual master. We very well know what's going to happen there. Another example, we often think that you know, we don't need a mediator. Why can't we just directly approach Krishna? We often think that way. So I used to think that a lot when, like long ago. Why there is a need to, because we always, usually most of us coming from the background from India, we see that we've seen a lot of thugs who have we've seen cheating going on. So therefore that mediation, so it's a huge hard struggle to actually find. For example, let's pick it up this way. To approach a very important person, we really need to go through a mediator. We can't just go to the Prime Minister's house and knock, hi, my name is this, so how are you doing, and all that stuff, and then we get into their house and we start living. It's very confusing. Can we do that? No. So in the material laws as well, there are certain protocols that we have to follow, let alone spiritual world. And until unless we learn to serve our spiritual master properly, who is the reflection of Paramatma? Because the Lord has sent spiritual master to us to see the Paramatma form of the Lord. And therefore, when we learn to serve the spiritual master properly, be part of his mission, then we know where our position quite well, that where we are standing, even if the spiritual master, if, this is quite interesting, even sometimes when we want to be favorites of the spiritual master, this is also telling us, hello, where are we in this whole scenario? Am I serving for fame, name, or anything of that sort? So at the end of all this is a game of our mind, how purified our consciousness is. So it in the presence, as I will repeat again, in the presence or in the present moment, this is something which we have the power on. We have the power to change our present. And we don't have the power of the future, and we have lost control of the power of past, sorry. So when the living entity understands his real position by the grace of Krishna, he always keeps himself fit in Krishna consciousness and acts accordingly. Thus, he gradually becomes completely free from the clutches of Maya. I would want to read from, where is that? The book, the morning prayers that we sing, the worship of Sri Guru. In that, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitate Koriya Aikya Arana Koriho Mane Asha. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified. So, my only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from the lotus mouth of my spiritual master. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. So I will stop here with this question. Are we truly attached? Is our consciousness truly wanting to hear the words and the instructions that's coming from our spiritual master's lotus mouth? Or are we mental speculating it? So with this, I'll take a halt here. I wanted to read the Beggar series, one of the prayers from His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Maybe just 2 lines that can help us meditate for the rest of the day. Oh, Krishna. So this is meditation 35. I must be ready to make any sacrifice. Dear Lord Shyam, there's nothing too difficult to tolerate when it comes to getting your direct association. The more you hide yourself, the more ecstasy there will be when we finally meet. Dear Lord, being away from you and your servants is unbearable. The only way I'm able to sustain my life is in the anticipation of that glorious reunion. I know that once I meet you and your servants, I'll immediately forget the sufferings and confusion I have experienced for millions of lifetimes. Dear Lord Shyam, I become a madman thinking about your spiritual associates and their selfless love. When I reflect on how long lust has kept me imprisoned, I want to immediately give up this body. It is my desire for these bodies that have kept me away from you. Knowing this, how can I remain in one for another day? Dear Lord, now that I'm being reminded about you, I see how irrelevant mundane scholarship is. Dear Lord Shyam, when I think about wealth, I think of the chore of monitoring one's assets. When I'm sleeping, unless I can dream of you, I might as well be dead. Any action that doesn't center itself around you is a waste of time. Conversations that does not deal with the exchanges between you and your servants is like a loud noise ringing in my ears. Reading anything that cannot be used for your service is a waste of time. I'm so pitiful that only if such glorious personalities like Prahlad, Hanuman, personalities petition you on my behalf, can all my great sins be forgiven and our spiritual master. I have no qualification of my own. All I can do is pray to somehow another and attract one of your pure servants to plead for me. I am the beggar that has no hope for your association, but I cannot live another day without it. This is our present, and we can have full control over it. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. I can request if there's anything anyone wants to add or contribute, please feel free.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Thank you for a very nice class today.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
I just wanted to say how today's class we feel very empowered. The whole class, it's very empowering to know that we have a control over our future. Our actions determine our future. So I like that very much. Thank you very much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Anybody else wants to say anything? Okay, so it's a working day, and if I can end with asking and seeking blessings from you all, please accept my respectful obeisances and bless me in my service to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitānaṁ
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo
Ananta-koti Vaishnava-vrinda ki jai. First Grace Padma Mataji ki jai. Krishna Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Have a nice day, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Have a nice
Hare
day.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.